This episode is brought to you by Hyperice, the leader in advanced warm-up and recovery technology. They have tons of innovative products, like Venom-heated wearables to help soothe sore back muscles, Normatec compression boots to speed up recovery and increase circulation, and Hypervolt massage guns to improve mobility. Loved by athletes like Naomi Osaka and Erling Haaland. Try them yourself. Get 10% off your order with the code MOVE at hyperice.com.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day, or ITV Hub, or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package which is instantly downloadable to your device and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Tuesday. It is the 12th of March. And once again, the weather could only be really described as soggy. As yesterday, this podcast might be a little bit clunky because I might need to take breaks throughout, but feeling a little bit better. Not much, but a little bit better. So here we go. Not here we go like the spoofer, just here we go. Chelsea 3, Newcastle 2 in the Premier League last night. a game with some really good goals, to be fair. A pretty good game, pretty well balanced, pretty competitive. Nicholas Jackson put Chelsea 1-0 up on 6 minutes. Clever little backheel on a Cole Palmer shot. The Palmer shot did look like it was edging wide. Jackson's backheel took it on target. I would have thought Martin Dubravka should have done better. He didn't seem to move until very, very late. Now, maybe he thought Jackson might deflect it to the other side. I don't know, but I thought he could have done better. Alexander Isak equalised just before half-time. Really well taken goal. Lovely curling shot around Axel Disasi into the bottom corner from about 22 yards out. Cole Palmer on 57 minutes cuts in from the right onto his left foot and goes near post and didn't really give the goalkeeper much chance. On 76 minutes, Mikhailo Mudryk made it 3-1 to Chelsea. Ball was played into Conor Gallagher. Mudryk appeared from absolutely nowhere, nicked it off him, danced around the goalkeeper, and to his credit, finished very well. But I think the goal of the game is Jacob Murphy's goal in the last minute. Bursts into the Chelsea box at a tight angle and goes near post, but goes top corner near post and nearly took the net off. In a normal situation, you'd probably criticise the goalkeeper, but the ball is hit with that much power, that much venom. I don't think you can criticise the goalkeeper here. Chelsea probably overall good value for the win. A draw would have been fair enough, but I think overall Chelsea probably just about edged it. So Chelsea stay 11th, but they close the gap on Newcastle to 1 point, and they do have a game in hand. 2 and 10th, a point behind Wolves, 2 points behind Brighton, 3 points behind West Ham. Very, very close between that collective of 5 who will be competing for, I suppose, the Europa Conference League spot, which I think West Ham, Brighton and Wolves would be happy to get. I think Toon would be disappointed with. I think Chelsea would be devastated with, given the money they've spent. They were clearly gambling on getting into the top 4 this year and getting back into the Champions League. They've already announced fairly significant losses for last season. The losses on this season are going to be catastrophic. And there's absolutely no way they aren't failing profit and sustainability when we factor in the 2 years previous to last year. They also lost a significant chunk of money. We have big games tonight in the Champions League. Barcelona play host to Napoli. Barca won 1-0 at the weekend over Mallorca. A tremendous goal from Lamine Yamal. Other than that, quite an uninspiring performance. Do like what I'm seeing, though, from Barca in terms of shape. I think Christensen at the 6 has improved their defensive structure. Kubarsi has come into the team at centre-back. He looks quite promising. Another young defender from that academy. They do obviously have to get Ronald Araujo back, and when they get him back, that will give them significantly more power in that defence. Alejandro Balde also out at the moment. I think his season is over. It's a big loss at left back, but they do have João Cancelo there. Currently having to play Rafinha as an 8. Not a role that he's got a huge amount of experience in, but a role that I do think his skill set lends itself well to. I'm surprised Fermin Lopez didn't get the start, just given he's a more natural 8, but perhaps the fact that it was Mallorca meant that they were happy enough to go with a more adventurous attacking team. No Lewandowski starting at the weekend. He came off the bench. You can expect that he will start this weekend. Napoli drew 1-1 with Torino. They went 1-up. Vicha Kvaratskhelia, who's found a bit of form recently, put them ahead. But Antonio Sanabria equalised only 3 minutes later. Napoli actually played quite well and were quite dominant in the game, but couldn't find a way to win it. You would expect they'll be heavily reliant on Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia this match day, because outside of them, it's not very inspiring at the moment. Even with them, it's not very inspiring. It's a very disappointing season. They currently sit 7th. They're 7 points off the top 4 with 10 games left. Wouldn't rule out a late charge, but they've only won 2 of the last 5. Now, they are unbeaten in 5, which is an improvement for them. But yeah, I wouldn't be wagering too much money on them reaching the top 4 this year. That first leg between those sides ended 1-1. And it was Robert Lewandowski putting Barca ahead. Victor Osimhen equalising 15 minutes later. It was a fairly even game. Barca used their possession a lot better than Napoli, who were a little bit lost, if we're all being honest, at the time. Now, they've been through quite the season. Obviously, they win the title last year in the summer. The manager leaves. Their best defender leaves. They bring in Rudy Garcia. He's a disaster. He gets sacked. They bring in Walter Mazzari. He's a disaster. He was sacked 2 days before that game. So Calzona, who's in charge at the moment, he only had basically 1 training session before that game. We'll see how he does. He certainly has improved things in his short stint in charge, but he's got a lot of work left to do. In the other game, then, it is Porto travelling to London to face Arsenal. Now, Porto won the first leg 1-0. It was quite an interesting game, a game in which Arsenal looked a little bit naive, a game in which the lack of European, like high-level European experience was exposed. If I'm not mistaken, Saliba and Odegaard and Havertz were the only Arsenal players with Champions League experience going into that game, and Saliba's and Odegaard's would have been minimal. I think Odegaard played Champions League with Real Sociedad. I could be wrong about that. With Saliba, it would have been with Marseille. Havertz obviously played in the Champions League with Chelsea and scored the goal that won Chelsea the European Cup a few years ago. But they looked really naive. And Porto let them have the ball, sat in and said, come and beat us, and Arsenal couldn't even get a shot on target. Porto found a winner in the 94th minute, a stunning goal from Galeno, probably the Champions League goal of the season so far. They'll be looking for a repeat performance. They don't need to win, so they don't care about scoring. They'll just be looking to keep Arsenal as frustrated as possible. And we know that with Arsenal this season, they have had some significant trouble finding that goal. Set pieces have been huge for them, but they can just get quite stale. Now, they've been running the score up in recent weeks. Their ability on the counter-attack is so important to them. So if they can get that first goal and the other team opens up, that's where Arsenal can take advantage. The issue they have here is that even if they get the first goal, because Porto won the first leg, Porto will be more than happy to see their way through to extra time and potentially penalties. And they'll back themselves to beat Arsenal on penalties. So it's going to be a tough night for Arsenal. I would expect them to come through. Obviously, Arsenal are in very good form domestically. Since the first leg, Porto have drawn 1-1 away to Gil Vicente, beat Santa Clara 2-1 in the Cup quarter-final. They hammered Benfica 5-0, which was a huge result. And at the weekend, they beat Portimonense 3-0 in what was a very one-sided but very controlled performance. So, 2 really good games, 2 really interesting games tonight. And obviously 2 games with massive amounts riding on them, 2 games that are well-balanced. Hard to pick both, but I do think Arsenal and Barcelona, just given the home advantage. The other thing is, Napoli, very dangerous on the counter. So maybe that's their avenue to win. Porto will need to frustrate Arsenal. That's their avenue to victory here. They need to frustrate Arsenal, make it so that Arsenal start to get panicky and the crowd starts to get edgy, which the crowd at the Emirates is prone to doing, and if they can achieve that, then I think potentially we could be seeing Porto in the Champions League quarterfinals. The crowd get on the team's back. Arsenal, the lack of experience, the lack of real leadership, the lack of proven winners in that team, that could be edgy, but I still fancy Arsenal to win. I'll go Arsenal 2-0. I'll go Barcelona 2-1. And that is where we will take our first break. I'll see you after this.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal making across sports, media, and entertainment.
And that is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
Hey there. Did you know Kroger always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Kroger app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Kroger today. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Right, powering through. We'll have a look at the lower leagues, I suppose. Championship, Friday night, Sheffield Wednesday 0, Leeds United 2. Patrick Bamford again scoring. He's having a pretty good season, bounced back after last year's injuries. Cardiff City 2, Ipswich Town 1. Big blow for Ipswich there, who'd been on a really good run. Hull City 2, Leicester City 2. Leicester dropping more points. Preston 1, Stoke City 2. QPR 0, Middlesbrough 2. Southampton 4, Sunderland 2. Big win for Southampton. His form has been a little bit mixed of late. Millwall 1, Birmingham 0. Blackburn 1, Plymouth 1. Norwich 5, Basement Dwellers Rotherham 0. Watford 1, Coventry City 2. Coventry beginning their annual charge towards the playoffs. Huddersfield 1, West Brom 4. Carlos Corberan derby. And Bristol City 1, Swansea City 0. So, Leicester still top, 3 points clear of Leeds. Leeds are 1 point clear of Ipswich. Ipswich are 5 points clear of Southampton, but Southampton do have a game in hand. Then it's a 10-point gap to West Brom. And it looks like right now, those 5 are all secure in the top 5. Now, West Brom obviously a long way off the rest, but it does look like they should secure a playoff spot. And then things are starting to break up again. You've got Norwich on 58, Hull on 58, and Coventry on 57 before a 4-point drop to Preston and Cardiff. So potentially Norwich, Hull, and Coventry, all the cities, competing for that final playoff spot. 3 decent teams. Norwich have been on a really impressive run of late. They've had a very, very mixed season. They've lost 13 times already this season, which definitely is not what they were expecting when the season began. David Wagner seems to finally be turning things around, though, you know, with this division, you just don't know. But if we look back, match week 15, they just lost 4 in a row. They'd lost 5 of 6 with no wins in that 6. They'd lost 7 of 9 and 8 of 10. 8 of 11, sorry. They'd lost 8 of 11. 2 wins, 1 draw, 8 defeats in 11 games. They were 17th in the league. And they haven't been smooth sailing at all, but, a couple of wins here, defeat there, win, draw, win, draw, win. Couple of defeats, draw, couple of wins, defeat. They've just been plucking away, picking up points. Their home form has been really good of late, and that's what's really pushing this charge. But they're back among the playoff spots, and that's where they would have wanted to be. And it's Norwich, so they'll find a way to get through if they get into the playoffs. But as things stand, it's shaping up to be a really exciting end to the championship season. 9 games left. Some teams have 10, but for the most part, 9 games left. It's the most exciting league in Europe, in my opinion. We have 1 game tonight. It is Birmingham home to Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough currently sit 11th. Sunderland are 12th. Bristol are 13th. Watford, Swansea, Millwall have pulled themselves away from the relegation zone, kind of. 3 wins in their last 4, but there's still only 5 points outside the relegation spots. But there are a bunch of teams below them, including Plymouth, Blackburn, Stoke, QPR, who've also lifted themselves out of the relegation spots, and Birmingham. As things stand right now, Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday would join Rotherham in going down. But you've only got 5 points separating Swansea in 15th and Sheffield Wednesday in 23rd. So it is really shaping up to be a proper battle at the bottom of the championship, which is really exciting to have both battle at the top, because Leicester have thrown away the big advantage they built up. So now you've got Leicester, Leeds and Ipswich really competing for the top 2. Then you've got that battle for the 6th spot, and then you've got this big battle down the bottom. So lots to play for in the championship over the last 9 weeks of games. In League One at the weekend, we had Wigan 1, Leyton Orient 0, Port Vale 1, Shrewsbury 2, Charlton 3, Carlisle 2, Barnsley 1, Lincoln 5, Exeter 2, Bolton 2, Blackpool 0, Portsmouth 0, Stevenage 0, Fleetwood 0, Reading 1, Wickham 2, Burton 1, Peterborough 3, Cambridge 1, Northampton 1, Oxford United 2, Cheltenham 1, Bristol Rovers 0, Derby County 2. Pompey are top, 5 points clear of Derby, who are 1 point clear of Bolton. And then there's a 3-point gap to Peterborough, who are a point clear of Barnsley. And that brings us to 5th. Those teams all look like they will be competing for either automatic promotion or playoff spots, which leaves us 1 playoff spot. You've got Stevenage on 61, Oxford on 60, then Blackpool 57, Lincoln 55, Leyton Orient 54. Again, 9 games left. There are 10 for a number of these teams, including Barnsley, Stevenage, Peterborough. They all have games in hand. The playoffs might close off a little bit earlier in League One than they will in the Championship, because if Stevenage were to win that game in hand, they'd go 4 clear of Oxford. Now, it's only 4 points, but at the same time, given the inconsistencies of these teams, 4 points can be significant. Where do we stop? Leyton Orient. Then it's Northampton, Bristol Rovers, Wigan, Charlton, Wickham, Exeter, Shrewsbury, Reading, Cambridge United, Burton Albion, Cheltenham, Fleetwood Town, Port Vale, and bottom of the pile is Carlisle, who look as good as down, 9 points behind Port Vale. Remember as well, 4 teams going down. Cheltenham have a 5-point gap to make up on Burton Albion and Cambridge if they want to survive. That's a big ask. And Reading as well. But Reading wouldn't be in that bad a place if they hadn't had points deductions. They'd be, what do they have, 6 points taken? They'd be 14th. They'd be fine. Still lots to play for. Not as exciting as the Championship, but there are a load of games on tonight if you do fancy a little bit of lower league action. We've got Carlisle, Barnsley, Fleetwood, Bristol, Wickham against Wigan, Shrewsbury against Exeter, Northampton against Blackpool, Portsmouth against Burton, Derby against Reading, which not all that long ago, well, it is a long time ago, but not all that long ago, might have been a Premier League meeting. Certainly would have been a Championship meeting. In fact, 2 years ago it was a Championship meeting. Lincoln against Cambridge, Leyton Orient against Port Vale, Bolton against Oxford, and Peterborough against Stevenage is tomorrow night, Wednesday night. That's an 8 p.m. kickoff. All the games tonight are 7:45, except Bolton Oxford is 8 p.m. So you do fancy a bit of League One action. Some pretty good games there. Bolton Oxford should be a really good one. That's Bolton, who sit in third spot, against Oxford, who are seventh. So that one should be good. In League Two, Notts County 0, AFC Wimbledon 2. Accrington Stanley 0, Bradford City 3, Harrogate 1, Crawley Town 2, Mansfield 3, Swindon 2, MK Dons 3, Salford City 1. Sorry for your troubles, Gary Neville. Barrow 2, Colchester 0, Doncaster 2, Crewe Alexandra 0, Forest Green 2, Walsall 0, Gillingham 1, Tranmere 1, Sutton 1, Grimsby 1, Morecambe 1, Wrexham 3, and Stockport 1, Newport County 0. Mansfield are top, 3 points clear of Stockport. Stockport have a game in hand. Stockport are level on points with Wrexham, but obviously do have the game in hand. It is 3 to be automatically promoted. Right now it would be them. 2 point gap then to MK Dons, but they have played a game more. 2 games more than Stockport. Then it's Crewe, then Barrow, then Gillingham. That's currently the playoff mix. But AFC Wimbledon, Walsall and Morecambe are only 1 point outside the playoffs. Crawley are 3 points outside the playoffs. And Bradford, who've won 4 and 5, like Crawley and Morecambe, and Walsall rather, they're 5 points outside the playoffs. Excuse me. Minor brain freeze there. I'm just looking at Walsall losing at the weekend to Forest Green. Now, they did have a man sent off in the 72nd minute, but they were already 1-0 down. And Forest Green, obviously, right down at the foot of the table, they're second from bottom in line for back-to-back relegations, having done so well for so many years to build themselves up through the divisions and get into League One. It's been a fairly catastrophic run since they sacked Rob Edwards, really. Now, he was leaving anyway, but the way they went about it, I think soured some people on them. After Bradford, it is Newport County, then Harrogate, then Notts County, who've lost 4 in a row, Accrington Stanley, who've lost 4 in a row, Tranmere, Swindon, Doncaster, Gary Neville, Salford, Grimsby, Colchester, and then it's Forest Green and Sutton currently in the relegation spots. Forest Green are 2 points behind Colchester, but they've played a game more. They're 5 points behind Grimsby, but they've played a game more. Salford might want to start just having a little glance over their shoulder. Now, they are 10 points clear of Forest Green, and there are 2 teams in between them, both Grimsby and Colchester, but both of them have played 2 games less. Grimsby could jump them. Colchester could get within 2 points of them. And if Forest Green could just find a vein of form, because Salford have lost 3 and 4, with a draw as the other one, maybe Salford gets sucked back into that. Again, there is a full round of games. There is actually one postponed, which is called Colchester against Doncaster. But today we have Newport against Morecambe, Grimsby against MK Dons, Swindon against Accrington Stanley, Tranmere against Mansfield, Crawley against Notts County, AFC Wimbledon Gillingham, Wrexham Harrogate, Bradford City Forest Green, Walsall Barrow, Crewe against Sutton. All of them are 7:45 kickoffs. Salford play Stockport on Thursday. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff on Thursday. And then we've got obviously a full round again at the weekend in the National League. At the weekend, Aldershot 2, Oldham 1, Maidenhead 4, Dorking 2, Altrincham 0, Woking 1, Halifax 2, Boreham Wood 1, Rochdale 2, Oxford 2, Oxford City that is, Kidderminster 0, York City 0, Chesterfield 4, Field 1, Southend 1, Dagenham and Redbridge 1. Table, Chesterfield top, 20 points clear. Walking away with it. 9 games left, obviously, as well. Then it's Barnet on 68, Bromley on 66. Those two teams seem to be competing for the second spot. Although, is it playoff? It is playoffs, isn't it? It is playoffs. So it'll be Barnet, Bromley, Solihull, Aldershot. They would be the playoffs at the moment. Oldham 2 points behind Aldershot, but have played a game more. Gateshead point behind Oldham, but 2 games in hand on Oldham and 1 in hand on Aldershot. Then it's Halifax, Altrincham, Southend, Hartlepool. Actually, anyone to Altrincham could get into that playoff mix. But anyway, Southend, Hartlepool, Dagenham and Redbridge, Rochdale, Eastleigh, Field, Maidenhead, Woking, Ebbsfleet, Boreham Wood, Wealdstone, Dorking, York City, Kidderminster and Oxford City bottom and looking fairly hopeless. Given we did talk... Oh, we've games, actually, don't we? Yeah, we do. We've got a bunch of games tonight. Wealdstone, Bromley is postponed. Halifax, Oldham is postponed. And Maidenhead, Hartlepool is postponed. But we still get Barnet versus Eastleigh, Altrincham versus York, Gateshead versus Dagenham and Redbridge, Solihull Moors, Boreham Wood, Southend, Dorking, Chesterfield, Oxford City, Rochdale, Woking, Aldershot, Ebbsfleet, and Kidderminster versus Field. So that is where we stand right now. We will do our regular check-in on Inverness, Caledonian Thistle, because, we talked a little bit about, we mentioned in passing Forest Green, and of course, they were the ones that brought Big Dunk to the world. A 0-0 draw at the weekend for Big Dunk against Airdrieonians. Now, they did win the previous week against Caledonian, which was the first win in a while. Let's check in and see how Big Dunk's win rate is looking right now. Managerial record, 45 games, 11 wins, 9 of them obviously with Inverness, 15 draws, 9 of them with Inverness, and 22 defeats, 7 of them with Inverness. So he's won 36% of his games with Inverness. But 9 wins, 9 draws is not terrible. Obviously, some of that's cup games. A 22.9 career win percent. Massively been hauled up by his time with Inverness after the 5.56% win rate that he had with Forest Green and the 20% win rate he had with Everton, though only 5 games. Inverness, though, they are still second from bottom. They're 8 points ahead of Arbroath, 1 point behind Ayr and Dunfermline and Queen's Park. They've played a game more than Ayr, but the same amount as Dunfermline and Queen's Park. So potentially still some relegation trouble to come for Big Dunk, but we'll see. We'll see how he does. We might as well quickly, while my eyes are still functioning, go round the main European leagues. We'll start in La Liga. Barcelona won Mallorca 0, mentioned that earlier. Valencia won Getafe 0, Hugo Duro with the only goal of the game. Cadiz 2, Atletico Madrid 0. Disastrous result for Atletico. Juanmi with both goals in that one. Granada 2, Real Sociedad 3. Girona 2, Osasuna 0. Alaves 1, Rayo Vallecano 1. Las Palmas 0, Athletic Club de Bilbao 2. Real Madrid 4, Celta Vigo 0. Vinicius Jr. Then 2 own goals. Celta had done really well to hold out. They were only 1-0 down, and you thought maybe they'll catch a break here. 2 own goals, and then an Arda Güler goal wrapped it up for Barca. And Rafa Benitez, the Celta Vigo manager, has been sacked today. Not a surprise. Celta have not been particularly good. Rafa in 33 games in charge, won 9, drawn 9, lost 15. It's getting ugly with Rafa. It really is. You look at how he's been since leaving Liverpool, sacked by Inter Milan, did well as caretaker of Chelsea, to his credit, he won the Europa League. Went to Napoli, did okay, not great, but okay. Did manage to win the Coppa Italia, so that was good. Sacked by Real Madrid, went to Newcastle, took them over when they were going down, brought them back up. Did okay, not great, but okay. Probably, to be fair to him, given the ownership and the money that was available, he probably slightly overachieved. Did not do well with Dalian Professional in China, where he was for 18 months. Did not do particularly well with Everton, though I would point to the injuries and everything that's come since. And then it hasn't gone well with Celta Vigo. So I'll be interested to see where Rafa pops up next. But for Celta Vigo, still a lot of work to do in this season. We'll come back to the table in a second. Real Betis 2, Villarreal 3, Almeria 2, Sevilla 2. So Real Madrid top, 7 points clear of Girona, who are 1 point clear of Barcelona, who are 6 points clear of Atletico Madrid. That's the top four. There's then a 2 point gap to Athletic Club de Bilbao. So it is one of the Atletis will get fourth. The top three at the moment looks like it's fairly set in stone, but there's 10 games left. We'll see. Then Real Sociedad, then Real Betis, then Valencia, much improved from last season. Then Las Palmas, then Osasuna, then Villarreal having a disappointing season. Getafe, they're just meh. Alaves, meh. Another very disappointing season for Sevilla as they sit 14th. But they are at least 6 points clear of the relegation zone this season, whereas this time last year they were much, much tighter up against it. Then Mallorca, then Rayo Vallecano, then Celta Vigo, only 2 points ahead of Cadiz, who are 8 points clear of Granada, who look done and dusted, who are 4 points clear of Almeria, who are done and dusted, and through 28 games, still have not won a league game. They've managed to draw 10, and they still haven't won a league game. That's impressive. They've drawn 4 of their last 5, but they're going down. We'll jump to Serie A. At the weekend, Napoli 1, Torino 1, Sassuolo 1, Frosinone 0, Cagliari 4, Salernitana 2, Bologna 0, Inter Milan 1. Inter's form just continues to go and go in all good directions. Genoa 2, Monza 3. That was disappointing. Lecce 0, Verona 1, Milan 1, Empoli 0. Juventus 2, Atalanta 2. Juve are wobbling, and the early season Allegri renaissance is now over. Fiorentina 2, Roma 2. Another decent result there for Roma. Late Diego Llorente goal to rescue a point. Lazio 1, Udinese 2, and what was a bit of a surprise on Sunday night. Monday night. Inter top, 16 points clear of Milan. Milan have now jumped Juventus. They are a point ahead. Then there's a 7 point gap to Bologna, who are only 3 points ahead of Roma. Then it's a point to Atalanta and 3 points to Napoli. Then Fiorentina, then Lazio, then Monza, then Torino. Genoa, safe and secure mid-table, we'll take that. Udinese, Verona, Cagliari have leapt out of the bottom 3. Lecce, Empoli, Frosinone, Sassuolo, and then Salernitana bringing up the rear. 9 points behind Sassuolo. Salernitana are as good as gone. Anyone from Udinese in 13th could go down. Udinese are 4 points clear of Sassuolo, who sits 19th. So lots and lots to play for at the bottom of Serie A right now. We'll jump to France. At the weekend, Nice 1, Montpellier 2, and some ugly scenes after the game. Nice's form is just falling off a cliff. Lorient 0, Lyon 2. Lyon are very much on the ascendancy. Lens 1, Brest 0. PSG 2, Reims 2. For some reason, Kylian Mbappe started that on the bench. Metz 1, Clermont Foot 0. Big win for Metz, who are battling relegation. Doesn't look good, but we'll see. Strasbourg 0, Monaco 1, Le Havre 1, Toulouse 0. Lille 2, Rennes 2, and then Marseille 2, Nantes 0. Marseille have found form of late. PSG are top. Brest are second, 10 points behind. There's 9 games left, obviously, in a 34-game season. 1 point to Monaco, 3 points then to Lille, who are level in points with Lens. Then it's a 2-point gap to Nice. Nice, you'll remember, were second, had the best best defensive record in Europe. Defensively, Brest now have the same defensive record, 19 goals conceded. Nice have lost 4 of 5. And you'd wonder how much Jim Ratcliffe and all the noise around Manchester United has affected things there. Then it's Marseille, who have won 3 in a row and are making a push to get themselves back into the top 3. Then Rennes, then Reims, then Lyon, who you remember were bottom of the league for a good while. They've won 4 of 5. Then Toulouse, Le Havre, Montpellier, Strasbourg, Lorient, Nantes, Metz, and Clermont-Foot. Clermont-Foot look done, but I would say Le Havre, probably Toulouse, Le Havre, Montpellier, Strasbourg, Lorient, Nantes, and Metz are all at risk of relegation. Metz have won back-to-back games and brought themselves back into the possibility of staying up. So I'm hopeful that they'll manage to stay up. Where are we going next? We're going to the Bundesliga. Stuttgart 2, Union Berlin 0. Gladbach 3, Cologne 3. Leipzig 2, Darmstadt 0. Bayern Munich 8, Mainz 1. Harry Kane hat-trick. He's having, I know Bayern are poor this year. There's absolutely no question that Bayern are poor this year, but Harry Kane is having an outrageous season. And we just need to pause and note that. In a shade under 3,000 minutes this season, Harry Kane has 36 goals and 11 assists, 34 appearances. In the Champions League, he got 6 goals. He has 6 goals and 3 assists in 8 appearances, about 710 minutes. In the Bundesliga, in 25 appearances, just over 2,200 minutes, he has 30 goals and 8 assists. That is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. He's the best number 9 in the world, and I don't want to hear any talk of anybody else. It is him. He does everything at a very, very high level. Anyway, back to the Bundesliga. Augsburg 1, Heidenheim 0, Werder Bremen 1, Dortmund 2. That one hurt. That one did hurt because Dortmund had a man sent off in the first half. They were 2-0 up, but Sabitzer was sent off just before half-time, and Werder should have got something from that game. Bochum 1, Freiburg 2, Eintracht Frankfurt 3, Hoffenheim 1, Leverkusen 2, Wolfsburg 0. Not the best performance from Leverkusen. That's 3 in a row that have been a bit shaky. Another back-to-back Bundesliga game where they got very fortunate that their opponent was A, garbage, and B, down to 10 men very early. Same thing happened against Cologne. They had a player sent off early. So did Wolfsburg. And then Leverkusen made kind of tough work of it. But they got the win, and that's all they'll care about because they are 10 points clear with 9 games to go and still unbeaten. Then it's Stuttgart. Then it is Dortmund, 6 points behind, holding on to the last Champions League spot for now. They're a point ahead of Leipzig. It looks like it'll come down to those two. There's a 6-point gap to Eintracht Frankfurt, who at the moment would take on, I think, the Conference League spot. Then it's a 7-point gap to Hoffenheim. Then Freiburg, Augsburg, Werder Bremen, safe in mid-table, will take it. Heidenheim, Gladbach, Wolfsburg, Union Berlin, Bochum, Cologne are in the relegation playoff spot and don't look like they can go any higher, but they could go lower. Mainz and Darmstadt are the 2 teams currently slated to get automatically relegated. There's only 2 points between Cologne and Mainz. Both of them are dreadful, though. We might as well stop off in Portugal while we're doing the rounds. Portimonense 0, Porto 3, Estrela 3, Casapia 1, Vizela 2, Firenze 1, Rio Ave 0, Braga 0, Boa Vista 1, Moreirense 0, Vitoria 1, Famalicão 0, Aroca 0, Sporting 3. Good win for Sporting, who are looking good value right now. Benfica 3, Estoril 1, Gil Vicente 0, Chavez 0. So Sporting are a point clear of Benfica, but have a game in hand. Porto are 6 points behind Benfica. Then Braga are 5 points behind Porto. Then it's a 3-point gap to Vitoria, then an 8-point gap to Molinense, and a 5-point gap to Aroca, who are then 6 points clear of Gil Vicente. And then it goes Gil Vicente, Boa Vista, Famalicão, Casapia, Farense, Estrela, Rio Ave, Portimonense, Estoril, Vizela, and Chavez. And there are only 9 points separating Gil Vicente in 8th and Chavez in 18th. So still a lot could happen there. But Sporting, if they win their game in hand, will have a 4-point lead. And that game in hand is away to Famalicão, who are 10th. You would fancy Sporting to win that one and go 4 points clear with 9 games left. Now, when is that game to be played? Has it been rescheduled? For the moment, it has not. It will have to be slotted in somewhere. Much will depend on their continued involvement in the Europa League, but we'll talk about that later in the week. And we will finish our trip around with the Eredivisie. So, Go Ahead Eagles 0, PSV Eindhoven 1, 21 Sparta Rotterdam, 22 Sparta Rotterdam 1, Almere 1, Utrecht 1, Walwijk 1, Vitesse Arnhem 1, AZ Alkmaar 4, Excelsior 0, PEC Zwolle 1, Volendam 1, Ajax 2, Fortuna Sittard 2, 2 wins in 20 for Jordan Henderson, flopping in his second league. NEC 2, Heerenveen 0, Ajax 3, Heracles 0. PSV are top. They are still unbeaten. They are 10 points clear of Feyenoord. Again, there is 9 games left. Then it's 20, Alkmaar. Ajax have 6 points behind Alkmaar and missing out on Europe, which would be incredibly embarrassing for them, really. They're 6 points behind Alkmaar with a much worse goal difference. Then it's NEC, who are only a point behind Ajax. Then Go Ahead, then Utrecht, Heerenveen, Fortuna Sittard, Sparta Rotterdam, Almere, PEC, Heracles, Excelsior, Walwijk, Vitesse Arnhem, and Volendam. Volendam and Vitesse look like they're gone, but there's still a bit to be decided for the relegation playoff. Heracles, Excelsior, and Walwijk. It'll be one of them. Right, I actually just need to go and lie down for about 10 minutes because that's a lot of reading in one go. So things are starting to get a bit wobbly. So I will see you after this break. Right, welcome back. So Craig Gordon has been recalled to the Scotland team. He is 41. That's a fair effort. He hasn't been in the Scotland squad since November 2022. And he's obviously been out for quite a while with a double leg break. But it's really good to see him back in the squad. He is one of the more unfortunate goalkeepers of the last 20 years. He's so talented, but so many injuries. Liverpool have announced that Michael Edwards is back. He will return to the club as the CEO of sport. He's technically going to be directly contracted to FSG, the ownership, and he will oversee not only the sporting operations at Liverpool, but also at a second club to be bought quite soon, it would seem. Great news. Best in the business, along with Beppe Morata. But this is a massive step forward for Liverpool, and I think sets them up really well for the post-Klopp era. Gareth Crooks team of the week. Vicario, didn't have anything to do, so I don't know how. Romero didn't have much to do. Van Dijk, absolutely. Ben White, He got an assist, but no. Rice, he scored, but no. John Stones scored, was dominated throughout the game. So absolutely not. Cole Palmer scored. He played well, to be fair. Maddison scored and played well. Son scored and played well and got an assist. Garnacho won 2 penalties. Aside from that, did nothing. And Danny Ings is the 9. It's the usual laughable stuff from Gareth Crooks. Premier League clubs have been accused of an empty promise about a new funding deal for the English Football League. A meeting between clubs on Monday ended without an agreement on a new deal. Dame Caroline Dinenage, chair of the Culture, Media and Sport Committee, accused clubs of parking the bus. Premier League clubs were recently told that the failure to reach a funding deal on the EFL would mean one being imposed on them. The longer this deadlock goes on, the more the stated commitment from Premier League clubs to striking a deal with the rest of the pyramid looks like nothing more than an empty promise. With the richest clubs in the country continuing to park the bus to block a financial settlement, the Premier League's number should now be up, and the government must urgently introduce its much-trailed legislation to bring an independent regulator into play. Every day that goes by without an agreement threatens the financial sustainability of clubs and communities up and down the country. BBC Sport has contacted the Premier League for comment. The EFL has a board meeting on Thursday where the continued absence of a deal will be high on the agenda. It is expected that the Premier League would emerge from Monday's deal with tangible proposals put forward to the EFL. The overall sum, which would be partly tied to future TV revenues, is expected to be around 900 million over 6 years. But a Premier League statement said the clubs had agreed to introduce a new competition-wide financial system. It said that progress in a deal with the EFL was subject to a new system being approved by the clubs. It's an absolute disgrace, says Gary Neville, who's always got something to say. It is about the welfare of the game and the sustainability of the whole league. That is rich coming from a guy who has financially doped his club up through the non-league levels using the bankroll of a billionaire who has done nothing other than ruin Valencia for most of his tenure there. The UK government confirmed a new independent regulator in English football in February. Among its purposes is to ensure a fair distribution of money filters down the English Football League pyramid from the Premier League. The Premier League at this moment in time are negligent in their dismissive nature, just pushing it down the road, thinking a regulator will sort it, maybe we'll sort it, and not doing anything. That's not good governance. I mean, the bottom line is the Premier League are not there to govern the rest of the Football League. And one of the reasons the Premier League was created was because the football pyramid was a mess and they wanted to go and do their own thing. And for Gary Neville to say, it angers me every time I see a Premier League meeting and they seem to look after themselves. They're the ones bringing in all the money. Now, I do agree that money should filter down without question. But I also think that a lot of the lower league clubs should get their own houses in order first. There's far too many of them running at considerable losses. And I understand much of that is, to do with attempts to get themselves out of the lower leagues. At the same time, there's a lot of clubs that just sit stagnant in lower leagues and run at a loss. So potentially those clubs should be looked at as well. Manchester United have made Jared Brantwaite their top summer transfer target. I don't believe that for a second, nor do I believe that Michael Elise is also high on their summer wish list. The reason I don't believe the Elise story is because it's from the spoofer, Jack Talbot. Manchester United don't know who their manager is going to be next season. Manchester United spent near 60 million to sign Lisandro Martinez, who plays left side centre-back, the same position that Jared Brantwaite plays. Now, he's obviously far too small to play that position to any high level, and Brantwaite would be an upgrade, but at the same time, you don't know that the new manager is going to want a left-footed centre-back. You just don't. Everton are keen on Jacob Greaves, who's expected to move to the Premier League if the Championship club miss out on promotion. He would be a very good replacement for Branthwaite. But I don't know that Everton are going to be all that keen to sell Branthwaite. Now, they might have to. We'll see how the finances work. Manchester City are exploring a move for Bruno Guimaraes. Again, this comes from the spoofer Jack Talbot, so we'll throw that in the bin. Arsenal are planning a move for Aston Villa's 24-year-old Dutch goalkeeper Daphne van Domselaar in the summer, after being knocked back for Mary Earps. Tottenham have joined Manchester City, Liverpool, Newcastle and Arsenal in hoping to sign Pedro Neto. Neto left wing, Maddison 10, Son 9 and Kulusevski right wing, with Richarlison and Johnson for depth. That's pretty strong, to be fair. Outgoing Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has recommended the club sign Rayane Nouri. I doubt it. England winger Jadon Sancho has no desire to return to Manchester United after his loan spell at Dortmund, as he blames Erik ten Hag for letting his career stall, and he's right to. Dortmund are keen to keep Sancho and could explore a swap deal involving Daniel Malin. Okay. It will cost Manchester United more than 10 million if they sack Ten Hag and his coaching staff. Former Roma sporting director Thiago Pinto, who worked with Jose Mourinho at the club, says he's interested in succeeding Dan Ashworth at Newcastle. He'd actually be a good appointment for the Toon. João Cancelo has confirmed he hopes to make his loan move from Manchester City to Barcelona permanent this summer. Chelsea are among clubs monitoring Mario Dorgeles. He should avoid that move like the plague because young players go there to rot. Tottenham are willing to let Joe Rodon make a permanent move to Leeds in the summer. He's been really good for them. Really, really good. And finally, Bayern Munich have offered Alphonso Davies a contract worth between 11 and 13 million a year, but the Canadian international wants up to 20 million a year. So about £6 million of a difference there by the looks of it. I'm assuming if a deal is not reached, he'll be sold to Real Madrid. That's it for today, folks. Thank you as always. I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Podcast Network.
Purchase new wiper blades from O'Reilly Auto Parts today and we'll install them for free. See better and drive safer with O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.